welcome back to Switch to Linux. Well, we are getting ready here. We put everybody on, and for some reason, I cannot get anybody's pictures on, and I don't think it's entirely my Jitsi server because everybody else says they can see everybody else's feeds. It's something on my end. Now, one thing I need to do is I do need to change the Ethernet cable on my main streaming computer because I found out in doing the weekly news roundups that when I post them both late at night, it takes like 3 times longer for my streaming computer to upload the videos than my other computer, all on the same everything. And I think the reason is I started examining the networking cable here, and it's probably a pre-5e generation. So I have some Cat6e cable. I'm going to create a new Cat6 cable as soon as I get some more network ports, which I'm in a town which does not sell them. So I'll be doing that. But that's not the problem either, because when I'm even on my other computer, as I am chatting with people, I still almost never see anybody. So I don't think it's that either, but you never know. Maybe it's a combination of this computer, but the other person I chat with on Jitsi, they don't have a decent setup either. I mean, they have an old webcam, so that might be the problem. So working on a few things. Sorry if we don't see anybody's pictures. I don't know why, because everybody else can see everybody else. It's just I can't, for whatever reason, see anybody's pictures. So we'll run with it, and who knows, maybe people will show up. Odyssey is really pissing me off today. So it's like they change a bunch of things where the first problem is I cannot do a pop-out live chat. But then secondly, they are absolutely 100% unequivocally forcing a pop-out window, which pop-out windows, it's like, you want to talk about the craziness of triggering. Giving me a pop-out window over everything else so infuriates me. It's almost worth closing it down. That's how much I feel about it. Is it a picture-in-picture type pop-out window? It is a picture-in-picture
kind of suck.
pop-out.
You go to close that
it's like,
video.
Hey, Odyssey, there's a damn reason I clicked X on the tab. Pardon me. This is a family-friendly channel.
Yeah, I know. It's a meltdown moment.
Yeah, it's just like, dude, like, but right now, even if I close the picture-in-picture, it just reloads itself. It's like, what in the hell are you doing? And of course, their pop-out chat isn't working. Let me refresh the page. Maybe we can get some functionality working in Odyssey right now. Play. Okay. It's playing without being picture-in-picture now. That's good. Now let's see if I can pop out the window. Pop out. Hey, there we go. It's actually working now. All right, Odyssey's good there. Uh-oh. Ivan said Jitsi just dropped out on him, so I don't know. I don't know if it's the server. I'm moving on, so I think starting next week we'll be back to Thursday for this show. I am moving on Sunday to further on down the road. So we'll see what happens here. All right, there we are. All right, that fixed itself. Rumble actually worked first and foremost today. That's an oddity. And then, let's see. Twitch is good. Slowboo's over there on Twitch. And we got one over there on D-Live. All right. Let's see. Saving eWaste. We're going to look at Odyssey chat. Saving eWaste. Remember putting Ubuntu on my old laptop. Before I do that, how's everybody doing today?
Doing pretty well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of those, huh? One of those days.
Yeah. Wednesdays are really tough for me.
Yeah. No, once again, I forgot to do that. Well, hopefully we'll be back to Thursdays next week. So. Which is probably, I mean, I don't know. I think in a way better for me as well. Website is going to be launched very, very soon. I could launch it actually as early as tonight. I am working on one final thing, and that is the contact forms on modern websites. If you've noticed, most companies have done away with them entirely because AI defeats the any form of spam prevention. hands down. And we can blame Google for that, for unleashing AI on CAPTCHAs and everything. So it got so good that only computers can solve them. In fact, there was an inflection point. Computers can solve CAPTCHAs better than humans can solve CAPTCHAs now. So CAPTCHA pretty much guarantees a computer is actually the one filling out the contact form. Well, the platform we are using now does not have any other easy method of putting in anything other than Google reCAPTCHA, and I am not putting any Google services on the new site. Absolutely none. And so with that, I'm trying to get a honeypot system working, which is really the only way to prevent spam. But the convoluted system, the way it works, I might end up just doing away with it and simply putting an email address in a hashed or hidden methodology on the site. So I might just do that and just do away with the contact forms altogether. And then I'll run that through a proxy email. So if I get spams, I'll just, refresh the email every once in a while, I guess. So with that, new website should be coming up soon. Hopefully I get it out. Because I've actually, for the last about month or two, actually for 2 months, I've been, all those weekly news roundup articles, they get put on both the old site and the new site so that we don't have holes missing. And we have a tinfoil hat time coming out that I would like to get released on Saturday, and I don't want to post that up on the old site. So I'll be pulling down the new site, or the old site, very soon, pushing the new site in its place. And then we'll move on with the other plans that I had for this year. And who knows if the Tubies doesn't community strike us for something stupid and BS reasons, we might actually turn on membership in February. I've been holding out. I'm not, despite them constantly pestering, you should set up memberships. You should set up memberships. I'm not setting up memberships until all of these bogus community strikes disappear. So as long as YouTube keeps on giving me community strikes, we're not going to set it up. I did hear back from the Odyssey team, and I got to shout out the Odyssey team. They are actually really awesome. It is their vacation until the 9th, and they still emailed back when with the issues with the payment accounts, and it turns out they can't do it the way I wanted to do it, despite that's how everybody else does it. So it's going to take me another hour to set that up eventually. So hopefully, and probably not by Friday, but hopefully by next week, we will have memberships or tipping capabilities, at least over on Odyssey. And I believe Odyssey takes 5% of the chats. Of course, we are over on Rumble, takes 20%, YouTube takes 30%. And so those are the breakdowns. So we'll have that out kind of soon as well.
Odyssey uses coins, don't they?
Well, okay, so they use coins, but there is actually a way to attach an actual payment account, and you can set up channel memberships and tipping, which is actual money. Which is good, because since the SEC lawsuit against the library, those coins pretty much don't mean anything anymore. So who knows? Maybe they'll come back. I don't know.
I'll have to look at that in the future.
Yeah. So yes, they actually do have a way to do channel memberships, just like YouTube. They do have a way to do. I don't know if it's like super chats or things. I know that you have the ability to tip. And I have the ability to paywall certain video or content if I want to. So those are things that are optional things that we can do over on Odyssey, which is good because, frankly, I think Odyssey is my third highest. BitChute is still number 2. BitChute holds in on number 2 with discoverability. YouTube, of course, number 1. BitChute number 2. Odyssey number 3. And Rumble... a pathetic, last in charge. Rumble is horrible for discoverability. My videos, everything gets up on all those different platforms. YouTube, thousands of views. Odyssey, BitChute, into the hundreds of views. If I get 10 views on the average video on Rumble, it is shocking. And so, yeah, Rumble does have a lot of problems with it. That's why I think Odyssey has the best chance right now of taking over. All right, now let's get into the comments, unless there's anything else. All right, Jabba the Cat. It's Kitty the Hut. It's Kitty the Hut, actually. Greetings, Moonbase Alpha Grays. How are you doing? Good morning, Drilly from Singapore. Mr. Babas, how's it going there? Micah 16, hello. Echo, hello. Echo, hello. Wrestler View, greetings. I hope you are doing well. eBay takes 37%. Eli in the Wolverine State. I saved by not giving Microsoft my money. There you go. Smash that thumbs up. 619 OTA. Thank you. Commodore Fan, how is your aunt doing? Let's see. On the way on my phone, on the way home from the hospital, they moved my aunt out of ICU. All right, that is good to know. We are continuing to pray for her. All right, Lemon Sheep over on Odyssey. Greetings. Saving eWaste. Remember putting Ubuntu on my old laptop, and I was thoroughly impressed because it not only looked better than Windows. Let's see. It only looked better than Windows, but it also booted in an acceptable time. There you go. It's about to get real. That's right.
Yeah, the coin service on Odyssey is no longer available.
Oh, really? Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, I'm trying to find a way to put some money on it, but
I think it goes channel per channel, but I'm not 100% sure. And it uses the Stripe backend, so basically it goes through subscription systems on Stripe that hopefully you can control. I mean, I know I can control them. Ivan keeps on dropping and going. Ivan, are you okay? Has the 3-letter agencies gotten to you and you just keep on running back, or what's going on over there?
I think it might be the VPN. I'm going to shut that off.
Okay. You can turn off picture-in-picture settings in Odyssey. I will look into that. I thought I did, actually, but I'll look at it again. I actually did completely disable picture-in-picture in Firefox, which I use primarily, but I don't use Firefox for doing my video backend. I'm using Chromium, and I can say I have almost no idea how to use Chromium. I had to install Windows 10 on an old laptop to configure an audio interface DSP mixer. Their spying was worse than a few years ago. Won't work in wine. Yeah. I actually had to use Windows 11 last week to help somebody set something up.
Ooh.
How in the hell do you people do it? Literally, it's like I install KeyPass. I go to find it in the search menu, and it's not like, where in the hell is it? It takes like 5 clicks to find a software package I just installed. Like, what? How dare you? EU Tech, how's it going?
You're not supposed to install anything that Microsoft didn't create, you know?
Yeah, there you go, right? Google doesn't swallow, so it might not be worth it. Uh-oh, what? Let's see. I know this felt like Scarecrow without courage, but I had to switch a pair of stereo channels to mono. Simply had to do it. There you go. Right. All right. Oh, that's a whole lot of Hail Marys. Good thing I'm not Catholic, right? All right. Might save the U.S., but they also have no love for privacy. Never trust anything that forces numbers or DOB bank accounts. That's right. How could you? Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's see. Got rid of Rumble due to the email issues. So I want to wait for my Vivaldi accounts to be in order. I know, like, if anybody signed up on my Christian newsletter with a Vivaldi email address, they always bounce for some reason. I tried to reset the server so it never sends the same email extension on the same batch. So I tried to split them over several batches, but that didn't work either. So I still have a lot of bounces. I don't know if it's email address is not there or if it's Vivaldi says, hey, you sent like 3 different people an email at the same time. It's like, yeah, Vivaldi, it's called a newsletter. People signed up for it. Whatever happened to the Web3 hype? It disappeared. Nobody chatting over there on Rumble yet. 6 watching on Rumble. We got 22 over on Odyssey and a pathetic 9 on YouTube. There you go. All right. And let's see. Let's go ahead and get in on our discussion here. So we want to talk about saving a little bit of money with using Linux. I think this is a good first topic for the new year because we are in a beginning of a global recession, and inside of that, people are going to be looking for ways to save money. And if your computer is not doing super hot this year, before you go out and rush out and buy another one, consider running Linux on it. Now, you're not always going to run the latest and greatest Linux on an old and nearly dead computer. But at the same time, what we can faithfully run is anything running XFCE. Well, anything except something like Cubes also runs XFCE to keep the system down, but because of all of the stuff. But any basic distribution, and really, if your computer's not working well, if Windows is like, you got to update, you can't update anymore, just consider wiping it all out and using Linux. Now, there is a downside, of course, as we've talked about on this channel many times, that when you are doing that, then you have to be ready to jump into Linux. This is why I recommend testing the waters first. Anybody want to jump in with anything specific to say here before I filibuster the whole thing?
Yeah, if you have an old laptop laying around, before you even consider, even if you're looking at Chromebooks, okay, you're going to save yourself quite a bit of money by repurposing an old laptop, that's 4 to 8 years old maybe, and it'll do more than the Chromebook will. You'll be able to get your email, you'll be able to get online and watch videos and stuff like that. And if you really like the laptop, you can show it some love and upgrade it from a regular hard drive to an SSD. That's the biggest improvement you can do to one.
Yeah, and that's you said Joe Collins just came out of the woodwork to talk about that. Was that today?
Yes,
this week.
Yeah, he posted a video on his channel.
Awesome. I'll have to go check it out. Yeah, I watched a Chris Ware video the other day talking about YouTube dying and things like that. That was a good video the other day, but I did not see Joe Collins push a new one out. Steambod's aunt died from jumping into Linux. Well, she was just supposed to install it, not jump. I hope she didn't really actually die, but no. Fewer things I say about that, better. Anyone else want to jump in? Salbu, any thoughts on saving an aging computer?
As long as you're using some kind of Linux, most computers will work, even if they are really old. You might not be able to run the most up-to-date versions of some software, like word processing suite, but any old computer will work for just about anything. The only thing that you need to be careful of is old hard drives could be fragile, and they could be they have a finite amount of how long they could live, but as long as you don't care about it's not holding any important data, then go for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and as Dan had said too, you can really revitalize an old laptop by simply swapping out the hard drive. Most laptops, unless you're dealing with Apple, most of them do have replaceable hard drives still. There's a few exceptions, although a lot of computers right now are going with the M2 SSDs, which are easily replaceable, and they're getting pretty cheap
I just
as well.
installed one of those. The M.2, they were started out as SSDs, except you bolted them to the board, but now they got M.2 NVMe drives, and they use PCI lane support. So now they're up to PCI lane 4 speed communication with your motherboard. But I installed one and put all fresh Linux and all of my stuff, my game, Steam games and stuff like that. Actually, the games are on a different drive. I really haven't noticed the speed increase with that. I mean, there's some little speed increase with games loading off the SSD that they're on, and there's some startup times that are a little fixed. But as far as the machine starting up faster or anything like that, I don't really notice it.
Yeah, I mean, they should be a lot faster. I know the Ryzen 5 laptop I found at the pawn shop last year for $100. That's what that has. Now that one has an extra hard drive bay as well, so I actually put another SSD in it, so that computer dual boots Linux Mint, and that's actually my Cubes machine as well.
I'm running I'm running an AMD5 with DDR5 RAM in it. It's the newest, the latest stuff that came out this year. You can't buy anything newer.
Yeah.
And compared to all my old stuff, it's not really that fast. But if you actually use a Geekbench, that Geekbench works with Linux, because I did one with my old hardware, and then I did one with my new hardware, and the speed and performance doubled. So it's twice as fast as my old hardware.
Yeah, yeah. So that's, I mean, even if you are still wanting to keep Windows, you could try just upgrading to the SSD. But
a lot of the software and like the Linux kernel and stuff like that, they have built-in timers in them. They have to complete a certain amount of increments of time for certain things to load. It's built in there to give the kernel time for loading stuff, and and that's why probably you run into some of these issues that you can't make it go any faster. I cut in on one of the Peppermint guys talking about this, and they said yes, there is some time things that are in there, and actually in their distro they've tried to trim those right down to the bare minimums to make it as fast as possible.
I know if you're running Linux Mint on a standard hard drive, it can take a while to boot, even on a really good hardware. But as soon as you swap it to an SSD, it'll boot in a matter of seconds, and that's kind of what
the SSD to an NVMe. Don't expect that to double.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I consider both of those pretty close to the same speed. In my experience, and I don't know which, I don't know if my laptop is using the PCI channel or not. I really have no idea.
The PCI channel is promised to be really fast, but
well, I mean, that computer literally boots into Linux Mint in about 3 seconds, so it wouldn't surprise me if it is. But let's get off of the hardware and talk about the software, because really the average person's not going to be like, hey, this computer is getting slow, how can I speed it up with an SSD? The average person is going to be running your computer, and Windows is, after so many updates, Windows gets to the point where it's so slow and you're like, I just need a new computer. Well, you may not. You may be able to just use a good Linux distribution. Now, this first article here we had from ZNet. Is this a new page design? Okay. And new logo, I guess. So they have an article here. Want to save your aging computer? Try these Linux distributions. So they give us a few options here. The first is Bodhi. I believe I have reviews on at least most of these. I have not reviewed Bodhi for a while. This is Ubuntu with, I believe this is the Enlightenment desktop. I would not necessarily consider this a super lightweight, although it is certainly not as heavy as a lot of other modern things. It is a little bit unusual and different, so this may not be the best experience if you're trying to stick to a standard Windows type experience, but it is actually cool and has some other elements in it that make that desktop pretty good.
Yeah, with the Ubuntu base, you shouldn't go out more than 6 years old.
What's that?
With an Ubuntu-based distro, you really shouldn't go out any farther than 6 years old, and make sure you have the RAM requirements and stuff.
Yeah, I think that there's most of these on these lists are Ubuntu-based, and I completely agree with that. Ubuntu itself is becoming so bloated that even something like Linux Lite based on Ubuntu is getting a little bit more bloated because of that Ubuntu core. This one here, you can see 768 megabytes of RAM, 1 gig recommended. 1 gigabyte CPU, 8 gigs of drive space versus 10 gigs. You'll see that the processor and RAM are very similar with those. Looking at Puppy Linux, so look at half the RAM, smaller CPU, optional hard drive. Hey, look at that. And DVD-ROM or USB, probably USB 3. And the reason that this is half as much RAM is because Puppy is based on Debian. And so Puppy is absolutely going to zoom on nearly any computer, anything based on Debian. The other one I would look at is MX Linux. I don't remember if it's in this list here.
It's in one of the lists from one of the articles.
It is. Yeah, I remember seeing it in one of them. I don't think it's this one, though. But MX Linux, again, based on Debian, has a lot of stuff in here to make it work. That's actually what I'm using on my writing computer, which is a Lenovo S21E, which does have, I think that might have a Might have a soldered-in hard drive, or it has a small M2 chip. I don't remember. 2 gigabytes of RAM, soldered in. It's $100 computer, but that thing, you cannot tell it's $100 computer running MX Linux. It is absolutely works really well, really fast. Tiny Core, I don't remember if I actually looked at Tiny Core. That just needs an amazing 46 megabytes of RAM.
Nice.
Yeah, I can't remember if I've looked at Tiny Core or not. This guy says, I don't recommend Tiny Core Linux to those who are new to Linux, as it's not as straightforward as you think. It does support virtual desktop, sticky windows, control panels. Basically, if you have a computer, it's like, if something that was running Windows XP, you might get Tiny Core working on it.
Yeah.
I mean, look at that. i486DX CPU. I don't even know what that is anymore.
Wow.
DX, that's old.
Yeah. And then we have LXLE Linux, another one based on Ubuntu. So you notice the RAM usage is a little bit higher. P3 CPU or better. So that's another option as well. So there are distributions if you're like, okay, I just need the computer to work. Now, if you have a computer that you need one of these because it's that stinking old, you're not going to have a lot of success with things like YouTube videos and things like that regardless. But you are still going to be able to do your email. You're going to be able to write up some documents. You're going to be doing some basic internet searches. Maybe a little bit less because of how bloated browsers are becoming these days, but that's thoughts. Any thoughts? We're going to get to comments again, and then we'll get to the rest of the articles. But you guys have any thoughts on these before we do that?
I'm actually.
Yeah, keep in mind there are still varieties of Linux out there. 32-bit is still a thing.
Yes.
Debian still pushes a 32-bit.
Yeah.
Peppermint has a 32-bit version. They also have a non-system D version called Devwan. I think Devwan comes in 32-bit as well.
Mm-hmm.
And there is stuff out there. Like I have a 15-year-old Dell Latitude here that will run the 32-bit version just well. The problem with it is the 32-bit software is kind of really dated. They kind of put it together to make it work, but nobody's making no new 32-bit packages.
Yeah, it's like I've got an old Hewlett Packard Pavilion G6 that I've had, and I've used Linux on it for years. But it had Linux Mint on it, and at some point after an update, it didn't recognize the Wi-Fi adapter at that point. So I'm like, no, I need to find a different OS to throw on there, because the Wi-Fi does work, because I did a factory restore with Windows on there, and it works fine. But I'm like, I really feel better with Linux on there, so I'm kind of in the ball field to try out that there Peppermint.
Yep. Salbu, anything, Dan?
No, not really.
Okay. All right. Checking in on some comments here. Let's see. A fair number of usable computers out of eWaste over years. Blows my mind what people throw out. I know, right? And that's why I think that computer I got at the pawn shop was so cheap. They're like, it won't charge all the time. You have to wiggle the charger. Yeah, it's a $7 charging port. Just 10 minutes to fix. Let's see. Razzie wore out the Shogun cat toy and is now working on a catnip-filled banana. Oh, there you go.
Nice.
Earth is stationary. Let's see. Solus Linux works great on older gear. How well does it work on older gear, though? I don't know.
I don't either. I think I've tried Solus once.
Yeah, I don't see why. Maybe I don't see why it wouldn't. It is its own little thing. So, Intel chips run hotter than the sun at best conditions. There you go. Personally installed Mint on a 10-year-old computer for my 10-year-old brother. He only broke it once. Do you know if we might get an update to Orca? I'm blind Linux user and need to see some improvements. I have no idea. fifth different logo that I know of. There you go. Yeah. Still run systems with DDR. Is that DDR2 RAM? Yeah. It's like, couldn't tell. Oh, it's something on my screen. I think I have a dead pixel. Let's see. Stable crap for servers. Yep. Puppy Linux is underrated. Yeah, I think Puppy Linux is pretty fun. I mean, that's the one my cat uses. Zorin, nicest 32-bit distro. There you go. I had enough trouble with Zorin that I would never go back. Yeah, the only thing I don't like about Zorin, do they still have a 32-bit distro though? Because Zorin is exclusively based on Debian on Ubuntu, and Ubuntu dropped 32-bit a while ago.
Yeah, Ubuntu dropped it a long time
they
ago.
might still have a legacy 32-bit, but I don't think it's going to be supported much later. When did they drop it? Because I know Ubuntu 18 LTS goes out of maintenance in April. So if it's based on 18 or
it's been
or
that
older,
long.
it's probably not even in maintenance anymore. All right, let's see. Looks like I lost a few comments on Odyssey. They seem to only keep a certain amount. So starting back from 12 minutes ago, somebody's laughing. I have no idea why though. I mean, are you just the Joker in Triad, or is there something funny up there I can't see anymore? Here's family asked for pure blood in the hospital. Oh yeah. We can't really talk about that here, but yes. It's untouched. Let's see. Hard to find these days. Let's see. Male pregnancy sponsored by Vanguard. Yeah, there was an article the other day. This trans male gave birth. Yeah. I promise you, the trans male has female body parts.
Yeah.
It is quite literally impossible for a person with male biological body parts to give birth to a baby. It just doesn't work. So running Cubes and Pop on a studio laptop runs amazing. I found no hurdles with LibreOffice, Calc, and Writer. Yeah, I have not really either. Although it wouldn't matter if there's a hurdle or not. I gave up Microsoft products. Sorry, I'm done. Ubuntu is like my pregnancy, vague and bloated. When no one talks about Run It and Int anymore, Days of Wayland are here. Yeah. There is a new Linux. I'm going to see if I can download it to play around with it. A new Arch build that's running with Pipewire, Wayland, all that kind of stuff. I'm going to have.
I'm using Pipewire.
Who is Peppermint is? Oh, you are personally.
Yeah, Debian allows you to use it.
Mm-hmm. Is it default though, or not?
No, you have to use their wiki to actually activate it.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And they do warn you that it's experimental.
Mm-hmm. Any issues with it so far?
I haven't. On the general Pipewire that runs over Pulse Audio and ALSA, I haven't had any trouble with it. I haven't installed the Jack version because I'm not a Jack person.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Let's see. Nobody on DLive, one over on Twitch. We got 6 over there on Rumble. We have 26 currently on Odyssey and 24 over on the Tubies. The Horror Stream Live says, "Hi, kids. Hello. Hi, Daddy." My daddy's a Horror Stream Live show. Oh, boy. That's frightening. All right. Let's see. Oh, that I did see a comment that one processor we weren't sure was 1994-ish or so.
The DX.
Yeah, I think that was one of our comments that disappeared.
Yeah,
from,
it's like a 486 DX.
Yep.
The DX is the one with the math coprocessor.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you for the super chat, Dan.
Yeah, my first one that I owned was a 486 DX2.
My first computer, they sold me this thing and they said this hard drive is so big you'll never fill it. It has so much RAM. Like it had like 3 times as much RAM as my friend's computer, and he was like a computer geek. He had it fast mode and he's like, "Man, this is awesome." I had 33.6 modem. I had 32 megabytes of RAM. I had a 100 megahertz processor. I was supposed to get a 90, but by the time they bought the parts to get it, they couldn't get the 90, so I got the 100 upgrade for free. And then that thing had a 1.6 gigabyte hard drive. They said, "You will never fill that."
I remember I had 2 of those moments. My first computer was a 286 that I got my old man's job. He called me from his job, and he said that he called at 3 o'clock at my job and said that if I managed to get myself up and till his job site, he would give me a computer because they were throwing one away. And this was in 1994. I had never used a computer before. And it had a 20 megabyte hard drive. It turned out later on after some tinkering.
Yeah.
And I remember replacing that. I had problems with there were some games I couldn't play without deleting any other existing game. And a few months later, I got my hand on a 170 megabyte hard drive. And suddenly I didn't have to delete anything in order to play something new. A couple of years later, I got a 486 with 400 and something megabytes hard drive. And then 2 years later, I upgraded to a 1.2 gigabyte hard drive. And I thought that I would never, or it was a 2 gigabyte hard drive. And I thought I would never fill up that drive ever.
Yeah. Well, I remember
I kind of felt that way about 1 terabyte drives. I don't own anything that could possibly come up with enough data to put on it until I started gaming.
Yeah, there you go.
Right. Yeah.
I did have prior to getting that computer, I did have a barely functional like 386 that we bought off of somebody who was getting a new computer for like $50 or something. It was a horrible machine that barely ever worked, so I don't really consider it as my first computer, but technically I did have something slightly older. It was just completely useless. But yeah, so
the first machine I used was an XT with a 12 megahertz processor.
Yeah.
That's from a little ways back.
Yeah.
Yes, DOS 5.
Oh, yeah.
I remember my first computer, I got a second computer that was also a 286, and the hard drive was also 20 megabytes, but the physical size of the drive was twice of that of the 20 megabyte hard drive that I had. It was the same equal size as two physical CD-ROMs. That was the hard drive, and the graphics card. It had a physical switch on the back where you could select the color or mono.
Oh yeah.
You know what kills me is back then with the XT era and even all the way to 486s, the machines by law had to be built in a metal box with no windows, doors, or anything like that on it due to radiation concerns.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And now they make them now with the whole sides of them all acrylic and lights and neons and everything on it. Like, they don't even care anymore.
Well, now we have the little computers we set in our pockets and a radiator, our little buddies down there. So,
They make us sterile as we walk down the street.
Yeah, pretty much. Depending on how many phone calls you get. Whoop, not having kids tonight.
Yeah.
All right. So we have make use of 5 reasons to install Linux on an old computer. Lightweight distros work great on older machines. This is Ubuntu here. Of course, a lot of your computing power is taken up in the desktop. Microsoft, of course, they have so many things going on in the background, and then their desktop. Is it still? No, it's not. It's Metro now. Is it still Metro? I know it was. I forget what it was, and it was Aero, and then it was Metro, and I don't think it's that anymore. But these actually take a lot of, they end up taking a lot of power and RAM and CPU usage just to run. So if you have a super lightweight desktop environment, or if you can get used to something like OpenBox or something like that, you'd have a lot better experience in some cases. Of course,
XFCE is your best bet for lightweight, unless you want to get into the boxes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Window managers.
Yeah. Next is the support. Windows 10 does have some hardware limitations. Windows 11, is it like half of computers or so? I forget the exact statistics. Half of computers that people own right now are not even capable of running Windows 11, yet they're trying to get everybody on Windows 11 and do away with 10. And
Windows 11, is from what I understand, the Intel 12th generation and 13th generation processors with the E cores and the P cores, that the scheduler for that is built much better in Windows 11 than it is in 10.
So it will actually work a little bit better.
Yeah, with Windows 10, you're actually throwing performance on the table with them processors.
Yeah, I mean, I know the two computers that I've had to mess around with Windows 11 for helping this group out, they did not run nearly as well as that. And one of them, I think one of them is an i5, and the other one, I have no idea what the other one was. Which is, hopefully it works. They want to try and stream their messages. And I don't know if the i5 computer is going to work, though, in all honesty. I know when I did a few videos on this channel with my i5 laptop, it did not work super well. But I was, trying to do
the
HD
i5 and i7 and i3 thing has more to do with cores than actually the generation of the processor.
Well, yeah, the i3s pretty much suck. The i5s are pretty good unless you need to do a lot of processor intensive things. But I found the i5 struggles on streaming. The i7 and up is really good for streaming and stuff. That's why when I rebuilt this computer here, I rebuilt this. This computer might have been an i5 before it blew up. I can't remember exactly what it was. I don't think it was a 7. I forget. But I put a Ryzen 5 in it now. So it's a few years old Ryzen 5 computer, but it still works great for all the streaming and stuff. So, that's the thing, But the older, the hardware is falling out, whereas Linux will support machines that are way, way older. They may say here you can use Linux machines as secondary computers. The other thing I like about it is you can use external hard drives or flash drives, and you can have a fully installed Linux computer on that device for everything personal or more private. But then use your Windows computer as a Windows computer when you need to do that. So those are good options as well.
Yeah, your Ryzen 5 is probably a 6-core, 12-threaded processor. The 7s are 8 cores, 16 threads.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. This one...
It should do you really good.
Yeah, this one, I have no complaints about this system. Yeah, I have 12 CPU cores. I think it's 6-core multi-thread.
Intel does the same thing with their i7, 5, and all that junk too.
Yep.
It's the generation that really counts, because if you get like a newer generation one, you get a better performance and a faster clock speed CPU. Like my new CPU I got in this thing, it's a 7700K. It will jump up almost to 6 gigahertz frequency per core.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and it gets cooking at that speed too. It gets up to about 90 C. And they tell everybody that's normal.
Yep. Yeah. Ryzen 7 57U. Yeah, my 5 is a Ryzen. It's a Ryzen 5. I think 5505. I think, which is really good. It has a few smaller, a couple fewer cores though. I think it has 4-core multi-threaded. Actually, still does a pretty good job.
The cores are great if you play with virtual machines. Because then you can allocate like 3 or 4 cores per virtual machine and still not crash your machine.
Yep. Yeah, that's usually what I do when I run VirtualBox in this computer. I allocated, I think, 4 cores maybe.
Man, the new VirtualBox 7, that's horrible.
Is it? Yeah, I know 6 is infinitely worse than 5. If 7's infinitely worse than...
Yeah, it's got a sidecar that pops out from the side when your machine starts, and it's got a message box and everything. You have to constantly keep closing it.
I figure that'd be something you can shut off in the settings, but...
I just installed all this junk all over. It took me 2 days to do it. People say Windows machines are bad to rebuild. A Debian machine can be just as bad if you game on it, if you got Wine installed in it, if you got VirtualBox installed in it. It takes time to reinstall all that stuff independently.
Windows 7 broke and was unstable on Acer desktop, which I had until I found the problem. Buggy firmware. Yeah. Razzle Review first experimented with Linux on SUSE with 24 CD installation nightmare.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yikes. It was like the old Windows 3.1 had like 6 or 8 disks or something.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. Use Pipewire with Jack 2. It's amazing. Latency is faster, and you can connect anything to it.
Yeah, the guys that use Jack tell me that the Pipewire version works really well with Carla. It allows you to graphically connect all your wires together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I might have to play around with that on a computer sometime. I know I threw it on a virtual machine, but I didn't do much more beyond that.
That's going to be an issue, though. If you install Pipewire on your main machine, the audio connection between that and your virtual machines is going to be kind of rough.
Yeah, I should install it on just raw metal just to play around with it a little bit more is what I should do.
But if you have it on your raw metal, keep in mind if you install a virtual machine and open that distro up, the audio, you're going to have to tinker with it to get it even close to working. Because VirtualBox don't do a good Pipewire transfer between them.
New Year's resolution is to replace all my VirtualBox VMs with KVM. There you go. Windows 95 had like 14 or more 3.5 floppies. I actually have an OEM Windows 95 on a CD.
Now, have you ever converted a VirtualBox virtual machine to another one like KVM?
No, I have not played around with KVM at all.
Or GNOME boxes or any of those?
Like
I've never been able to successfully port one over.
No. I'll have to play around with that, though.
That'd make a good video if you could pull it off.
Yeah, I'll have to play around with it a little bit. See what I get. Let's see. Anything else? I guess we could do our last article. I had another article. This is just 5 more Linux distributions to test out. I think this was
Go for it.
MX.
I'll try to keep
MX
my trap
Linux.
shut.
I use MX Linux on my writing computer. Really nice. It has this own package installer, which is very user friendly and actually has the ability to add Debian backports out of the box, flat packs out of the box, testing repos, stable repos, popular applications. MX Linux is one of my favorites, so that is certainly good. Requires 500 megabytes of RAM, and they do have a systemd free one. And they have one that also based on Fluxbox and KDE as well. We have Manjaro. Depending on which Manjaro you're using, the XFCE version, could be good for older hardware. They do have there are some compelling reasons to go with Manjaro. My Raspberry Pi runs Manjaro because it's the most stable Raspberry Pi build there is, and I use it for a production machine, so that's why I'm using that. Zorin OS Core for the ultimate Windows 10-like experience. Although I don't think it's a super good one to replace an old computer because it does take a little bit more. It does take a little bit more resources in the current iterations, but it is still a good one. Linux Mint, of course. If you are looking for Linux Mint for an older machine, you might go to the Linux Mint XFCE instead of the traditional one. How's the memory usage on Mate? I'm not a huge Mate fan, so I don't know all that.
It's compatible to Cinnamon.
Is it closer to Cinnamon or closer to
matter of
XFCE?
fact, if you looked at Mate and looked at Cinnamon, they have a lot of similarities. I mean, Cinnamon uses Nemo as a file manager. Mate uses Kaja, which they look almost identical.
Yeah, what I'm asking about, though, is system usage. Because XFCE uses very few system resources. Cinnamon uses a lot more. Where does Mate sit? As what?
XFCE is kind of in a class all its own.
Yeah,
it has no leftover GNOME particles.
Yeah, what I'm asking is Mate closer in system resources to XFCE or to cinnamon.
I would
think
have
it's-
to say Mate is pretty close to cinnamon.
I agree.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I have it on a couple of my computers, but
Well,
I
they
don't
both
use
came
those
from
computers
GNOME
enough.
too.
Yeah, but cinnamon does have a lot more things going on in the background. So I don't know. I'll look into it. Elementary OS. That's an interesting choice. More Mac-like feel with an extraordinarily lockdown system. The good thing about Elementary OS is you're not going to accidentally break it. It's like they have actively worked against you doing what you want to do on it. But it does actually function pretty well. Here's Ubuntu with a Deepin desktop. I'm not sure about that for an older computer. This is something more for a newer one. The Deepin desktop environment is actually cool and compelling, but it does take a lot of system resources. So it is good. We've done plenty of video tutorials on that desktop, although I have not looked at it for a while, mostly because Deepin itself is has a very scary privacy policy in terms of use and is a Chinese group. So that is something to keep in mind. But the desktop environment itself, you can install it on a few different builds, and it's fun. All right, I'm gonna do a final check-in on comments here. Simply move to GnomeBox. Yeah, GnomeBoxes I'm finding works so much better than VirtualBox. As I sit down and do more distro reviews, I'll probably be using GNOME boxes a lot more going forward in the future because VirtualBox is just becoming worse and worse with every iteration. It's like Windows. Every edition is worse and worse.
Yeah, he had one way shape of
The only the best parts of VirtualBox, why I keep hanging on to it, is it has the best virtual machine to external hardware communication. Like
yeah,
you
that
can
is
check up at the top to turn on their USB thing, and you can read a USB stick through your virtual machine.
Yeah, that is
I mean,
something
there's
I've
little
not
niggles
played
like
around
that
with
that count.
in GNOME boxes. But yeah, it is something worth looking into. Do people still use Mate? Is there development? I believe there's still development.
Yeah, it's still around.
Yeah, it is.
Let's see. I think we've caught up on most of the comments here as well. I think we're gonna go ahead and jump off for the night here. We'll be back Friday for the weekly news roundup, and Saturday we should be releasing the first in a while tinfoil hat time. Stick around for that, especially if you are new to the channel. See what that series is about, and I have a nice list of things over here, and we will be working. Although the one I was going to do next, I'm going to bump back because there's one that is relevant to tax season, so we're going to work on that one next. And then we are going to go back to my other fun list here of tinfoil hat times. So those they're going to premiere on YouTube just for the simplicity of porting things over right. And then they'll roll out to the other platforms, within a few hours. So that is, I guess that'll wrap us up for now. So if you do have an old computer that is getting slow, before you throw it out, try installing Linux on it. There's that. Where do I go if you leave? What do you mean if I leave? What?
Yeah,
if I leave here, I don't know, go hunt around on whatever your platform is of choice. If we're booted off of the tubies, just head on over to switchedtolinux.com. The new website will have all of the video platforms down in the footer there. So you can go ahead over there. Ashton Snap just got off of work. We'll be going to a restaurant with my little sister in a second. We'll not be able to attend the stream. That's fine, Ashton. We are just wrapping up. So you enjoy the meal out with your sister. Tinfoil hat as the Cheshire Cat smile peeks through. I'm curious for the stream. Yes. Yes, we will May this year not have a big mushroom cloud. We might be pushing it to not see mushroom clouds. We might be pushing it. I mean, 2023 is already starting with a bang, so
Look for a sale on Geiger counters.
Yeah. We will have. I do already have a nice, compelling list of band news for Friday, so you can come back for the band news on Friday. and we can all enjoy the decay of the world as it falls into insanity. I guess work ahead on Bible in a year or watch some more computer stuff. Absolutely. Cyber Diary, if you are not aware, I do have a Christian channel as well called Our Walk in Christ. We do a lot of good Bible stuff over there. Our next video should be tomorrow. I need to record it still, but I have all the notes done, is on Obadiah in our prophecy series. Go ahead and put the link in here for you guys. Of course, Our Walk in Christ is on YouTube, Odyssey, Rumble, and BitChute. So you can find it on over there. And again, website ourwalkinchrist.com does have all of the video platforms down on the bottom. All right, guys, we will see you all next time. Have yourselves a wonderful, wonderful day. And I'm not sure if I will have a Switch to Linux video up tomorrow because I will be going in and doing another round of work for the group that we're trying to get them organized before I leave town on Sunday. And make sure to Fauci out yourself, protect yourself from the nuclear fallout. Great.
Yeah.
All right, guys. All right, we got to get out of here before we get in trouble. We'll see you guys on Friday for the weekly news roundup.
Good night, everybody.
Night, everyone.